Howdy, shipmates. Welcome aboard. If this is your first time coming in to see us, welcome aboard for the first time. Glad to have you along. My name is Patrick Goodman. I'm a freelance writer in the tabletop RPG community. And tonight, we're not exactly talking about Star Trek Adventures, but we are. And if that's confusing, believe me, I understand. Tonight, we are going to be talking with the four Star Trek Adventures writers, freelancers, who I have worked with many times in the past, and their new endeavor, which is not a Star Trek Adventures book, it is a Star Trek book. We are going to talk about the new book by DK called Star Trek Timelines. It is up for pre-order now. We will have all the info down in the description when the time comes. In the meantime, if I could get you to hit that like button, hit subscribe, do all the YouTube things, we really appreciate it. Tell your friends about this. I think there's going to be a whole lot of fun. But without a whole lot of ado, let's get into it. We are recording. And here everybody is. Ladies and gentlemen, the writers of Star Trek Timelines, Star Trek Timelines writers, my audience. Jim, I know you've been here before. I don't think the rest of you have been on.
I don't think so.
At least not on my show. So
So.
let's just start. Let's just start with some introductions, and since I've got everybody alphabetically by last name, we'll just start there and go down. So Derek, say hello.
Hello. I'm Derek. Right? Oh, say hello, Derek. I'm Derek Tyler Attico.
Take me a little.
Right? Speculative fiction author. Winner of the Star Trek Strange New Worlds 2005 and 2016 anthology. Contributor to Star Trek Adventures and author of the autobiography of Benjamin Sisko, and now with these fine folks, Timelines.
Awesome. Michael, you're up.
Hi, everyone. Star Trek. I start with that. Michael Dismuke, michaeldismuke.com to see a lot of the work. A lot of it is Star Trek Adventures RPG based, including Captain's Log. I was the lead writer and game designer for that solo RPG. Star Trek Explorer magazine is one of my first fictions that came out for media tie-in. And of course, happy to be with my fellow Trekstorians here working on Star Trek Timelines, coming out November 3rd. Pre-order now.
All right. Moving right along, Kelly.
Hello, I'm Kelli Fitzpatrick. I'm a science fiction author. I am also a longtime contributor to Star Trek Adventures RPG, also a winner of the Strange New Worlds contest in 2016. I am the author of Captain Marvel, Carol Danvers Declassified, a life story of that superhero. And yeah, very happy to have gotten to work on this project with these fine folks.
Outstanding. All right. And finally, last but not least, Jim.
Hey everybody, Jim Johnson. I am a speculative fiction writer, editor, also project manager on various and sundry RPGs, including Star Trek Adventures, Captain's Log, Fallout 2D20, and more to be revealed in the weeks and months and years to come. I've also had the happy fortune of working with all of these folks on Star Trek Adventures in one capacity or another. And as of the recording of this episode, 10 years ago, yesterday was my 10-year anniversary working on Star Trek Adventures. So,
Happy anniversary.
Wow.
Time. And just very fortunate to be working on that. And it led to lots of opportunities, including working on Star Trek Timelines with Kelly and Derek and Michael.
Yeah, my 10th anniversary doesn't come till August, so you've got me by like 3 months. But it's,
what do you get for a 10th anniversary? Is that
more work?
More work in this case.
Yeah.
All right, so see, I've worked with all of you in the past. How did this come about? Did they come to one of you and say, "Hey, we'd like you to work on this book," and one of you just said, "Hey, I know a guy who might be good for this. I mean, how did they choose you guys? Do
Yeah,
we know?
I was gonna say
they
Kelly's got the best canned answer for this one. Go ahead, Kelly.
yeah.
She did.
DK, the publisher,
Right.
wanted to do a visual history of Star Trek to celebrate the 60th anniversary, and in conjunction with Paramount. And so the four of us were approached as a group of, hey, we would like the four of you to work on this project. You've already kind of worked together before. And we need folks who are very deeply steeped in the lore and who are kind of willing to do a deep dive on the research. And so we were all like, heck yes, sign us up for that. And yeah, and then it was a very fun roller coaster of, it's a gargantuan task to go through all of the screen canon of
Well,
this IP.
I can but imagine. I mean, it's,
But it was kind of a cool setup where they worked with us to solicit which parts of the IP each of us were most familiar with and excited about, and then they sort of gave us assignments to cover so that we were capturing all of it, and then we worked together to make sure that everything was getting covered and fit together. And we have amazing editors that we're working with who are very patiently helping sort out all all of those things. So yeah, we got asked sort of as a group, and it was an awesome opportunity.
well, that's great. That's the. It's like, did they approach just one of them, and they just invited others? Somebody moved in and decided to stay. It's
Nope, package deal.
no, that's great. That is it's great to know that.
And I can't remember.
Expanding.
This is a good chance to recall before we forget. They sent us separate emails at the same time, right? Because didn't we like check with each other? Like, did you just get this email? Because they put our names in it, right? And I was just like, I was really happy to see the group that was.
Is that what happened? I don't even remember.
I think we all
feels
had
like it was like
emails.
10
It was
years
separate,
ago.
separate emails.
It might have been. I'll have to go back and look now. I don't
Yeah.
remember. Like, they definitely let us know, like, here's the group that we're, kind of.
I'm pretty sure they asked us individually, and then once we all said yes, then they sent us a group email saying, "Hey, here's your."
Yeah, that sounds
here's
right.
your
And I was like, is this spam? Is someone want like, did they ask for my social security number? I couldn't figure it out.
It was a little too specific, wasn't it?
Yeah, a little bit.
Well, that's great, because I've like I say, I've worked with all of you, and I've marveled at the quality of the stuff that we've managed to put together, and in a couple of cases, the sheer volume that a couple of you, Michael and Jim, are able to turn out. Because I'm a much slower writer than that. While I would have loved to have gotten the call, I would have been the stone around the albatross's neck. So, which, leading on from something that Kelly said, which eras did each of you grab? Whoever wants to jump in first.
I can go, I guess. Let's start. We've answered this question several times. I always try, will I remember everything this time? Definitely Voyager, which is my favorite show, my favorite captain. I was so happy that I got to get that section. I did also some of the movies like Section 31, Insurrection Nemesis. I also did the Kelvin universe, which was cool because I love Kelvin. So those were some of the big chunks that I did, and Picard, 3 seasons of Picard. Mm-hmm.
Awesome, because I've got a question for you about Section 31, but it'll wait until after this is over because it would be a spoiler. Who's next?
Yeah, I can go. So I was very excited to get to do all of Enterprise, the show, because I really love that sort of early humans launching into space vibe. I also did all of Star Trek Prodigy, and
Yay!
yep, and then the first 2 seasons of Star Trek Discovery. Also love that show. Lots of time travel craziness happening in those seasons, so that was interesting. And then also did all of Strange New Worlds. And then put together the early universe chapters, which had some contributions from a lot of like pretty much all of us, but sort of took responsibility for putting those together, and that was also fun and interesting. So.
Cool. Derek.
Jim? Oh, me? Okay.
It's like you're both being quiet, so I'm just like, okay, we're gonna force the issue.
All right, so I did the original series TOS. I did the animated series TAS. What did I do? I did the movies, the original series movies. I did First Contact, Generations and First Contact. I did the last 2 seasons of Next Gen and all of Deep Space Nine, and then I did some stuff like for the Mirror Universe that we all contributed to, but then I kind of like helped shape it and form it.
Cool.
Mm-hmm. Yep,
Jim,
and then that leaves the first 5 seasons of Next Gen for me. Most of Lower Decks. Our first editor did most of the season 5 of Lower Decks. I did everything else for Lower Decks, and then I did the everything in the 32nd Century. I did the 3 seasons of Discovery in the 32nd Century, and then very late in the game, we were able to fit in Starfleet Academy as well. So I was working mostly off the screeners for that one, but we had enough time to wrap that up. In addition, the other folks didn't mention it, but I also had a couple of spreads that involved some of the middle years, like in between the movies and Next Gen, and some other bits and pieces here and there. But what my fellow writers did mention is that we also all contributed to a bunch of different feature spreads. So if you're familiar with the DK books, they do special features on like specific characters or specific things within the universe or whatever. So we all had an opportunity to write a bunch of feature spreads, and I did a bunch of those, as did everybody else. And we had the opportunity to collaborate on a few of them as well. So like I split a couple with Derek and a couple with Kelly and a couple with Michael as well.
And you know,
short treks.
Short treks are folded into the timeline.
Yeah. And you know what I think is cool is that the way that our editors worked it is that everyone of the four of us, we all got equal work on this project. So it may sound like one or the other is like a little heavy, but we all got equal work, and I think that was really cool. So that we all got to participate equally in the timeline book. You know?
Yeah, and I think it just sort of broke down that like we each asked for certain aspects of it, and it kind of just all like worked out between the 4 of us. We had folks who were interested in covering all the things. I mean, we all love Star Trek in general, but it was cool to get to work on some of these corners.
That wasn't, and now I do remember, it was separate emails, because when we responded back separately without talking to each other, we kind of said what we ranked, what our top was down to, and it kind of just ended up working out, which I think is super cool that we got what we all got what we wanted from top billing, right?
Pretty much, yeah.
Yeah, that was kind of neat.
You know? I would have taken anything.
I know.
I mean, you know, I would take anything.
Yeah, I know that feeling well.
Having been a lifelong Star Trek fan and having worked on the Star Trek Adventures game for so long, like I think we're all really familiar with the entire franchise to some degree or another, even though we have our preferences. But it was great to be able to play around with it. And if I remember right, I think Kelly, I think it was your suggestion early on that we try to do peer reviews of each other. I don't remember which of us suggested. I think I'm pretty sure
it was Kelly.
And I think that really helped a lot because it just gave the 4 of us an opportunity to look at each other's work, correct any typos, clean up any verbiage, try to remember things differently or whatever. And so even though we each wrote a quarter of the book, I think you're going to see I don't know if it's necessarily one voice throughout, right? I don't think they made an effort to do that, but I think all 4 of us touched every page to one degree or another, if nothing else, through the peer review process.
And we really got to like capitalize on that hive mind, aspect.
And it reads well. It reads well. I mean, because we've been, without saying too much, we've been looking at everything as it's finalized, and it reads well. You know, and I like that I can't really hear my voice as much, or like I'm not, you know, none of us is overshadowing the other is what I'm trying to say. You know, it reads well. So to the reader coming to it, they'll see like the overview of the timelines. They won't see different voices participating in this book. At least I don't think so.
Yeah, and I remember. Oh, go ahead, Jim.
I was just say, I think the very nature of the book that we were constrained to, 40, 45 words per entry.
Yeah.
I think early on, I think we realized we weren't going to be able to add a lot of, fancy language and pretty words and stuff. We were going to have to keep it. I think Kelly kind of led the effort on like keeping it factual, coming at it from a journalistic point of view and keep it straight. I think where we had the most fun probably was in the titles for the different entries. I think we had some fun with that.
Yeah.
Sorry, Michael, go ahead.
No, I was just going to say I've been having a sigh of relief because now that we have the sample pages for us to look at, I of course, like you all, watch Star Trek pretty continuously. So I've been watching, like this weekend, I decided to go back and watch a Kelvinverse movie, and I kind of have this tension, like, are these entries going to hold up as I watch this and I have it on my lap? Is it going to hold up? And I've been getting a sigh of relief, including I was just watching DS9 today and looking at Derek's thing. I was like, yep, holds up, and it's nerve-wracking a little bit, but I think all of that extra level of peer review really kept everything high quality.
That's great.
I'm a little nervous, Michael, because I was watching. What the heck was I watching the other day? My son and I wanted to start a rewatch of Lower Decks, and so we were working our way through Lower Decks, and I was watching an episode, and something happened. I was like, "Oh, did I catch that nuance? Did I catch that nuance?" So I had to go back to the spread and check, and I was like, "Oh, yeah, it's there." Thank goodness.
Yeah, we're forgetting what we read. I think.
I mean, it's been a year and a half, year plus, right?
Well,
so
the torture is, and this is if it hasn't hit you all already. Someone will say a number, and I'll be like, "Did I get that number right?" And I go back and look. I got that number right. So.
Yeah.
Oh my goodness. Let's get this one out of the way. Because I know in Trials and Tribulations, the DTI agents were dogging on Captain James T. Kirk. In y'all's opinion,
the man's a menace.
Who's the real menace? I want to hear from the experts now.
Between him and Janeway, right? So, right.
It was pretty bad between him and Janeway, but I mean, let's face it. Did either one of them really impersonate historical personages?
To have who?
I know Captain Sisko did.
Yeah, I mean, in my opinion, like Chakotay and the Prodigy crew are like completely like have just destroyed the timeline. We had so many like little DTI entries to try to sort out what did you do?
When you mentioned that you were doing Prodigy, it's like, oh, better you than me.
Yeah,
because I had just gotten through rewatching the show with my kids, and it's like, oh, this is 12 kinds of messed up.
It is. I have a little tiny whiteboard that I have on my desk, and I had to pull out all of my colors of marker to try to track the different like times that they go through the same year to figure out,
out of 2874, the temporal integrity the Starfleet in 2874 claim that Janeway is the biggest infractor.
Canonically, like they point the figure at Janeway.
Yeah, though I can't necessarily. There's so much time travel in other shows that it's hard to get an exact count.
Yeah, like All Good Things. That was rough doing that because, and as Jim was saying, we had about 40 words for every entry. So I had to take All Good Things and look at it and be like, okay, well, it's like 2367, 2395, and then the present for when they went in like 2374, 75, and divide all those up and make it make sense so that when a reader reads it, they can read what happened in the past, present, and future, and it not be like gobbledygook.
Yeah. Oh my goodness. So what were the I mean, we've talked about some already just because of some of the immense amount of time travel in certain shows and episodes. But what were the biggest headaches for each of you? I mean, obviously with Derek it was all good things, and with Kelly it was Prodigy, and completely understandable. But I mean, were there any other particular snags that you hit that were going, how the heck am I going to do this?
Yeah, I'm not going to mention time travel because I've talked about it in other podcasts, and everyone knows how I feel about that now. But there were episodes which I found, especially some of the season enders that then they come back on the next season. They're quite cinematic, so trying to get those into 2 entries, like 1 per episode, was near impossible. So we fortunately had some wiggle room where we could take some of the simpler episodes and sum them up in one, like 1 entry, which could buy us some room in those other entries. I think about how complicated the season ending on Voyager was. I mean, we all felt it when we watched the show. We felt like it was too short, right?
Yeah.
And it was so complex, plus time travel with Admiral Janeway, that
Are you talking season finales or series
the
finales?
season finale of Voyager. I mean, the series finale.
Just making sure. It's like,
but the season finales too, like Scorpion 1 and 2, was very complicated, introducing a major character and a major species, right? So getting that into 2 entries was near impossible because it sets so much foundation up for the next 4 seasons of show. So that was a challenge I found. Some episodes were really complex. Don't even get me started on Picard.
Oh no, but just watching Picard gave me a headache. So let's.
Something I don't know that I've mentioned in previous podcasts, because I've talked previously about Discovery season 2. There's all the Red Angel stuff, and that was a little bit complicated to sort out. Not nearly as much as Prodigy, but there was another thing of like, there's like this mystery of what's going on with Spock, because he's accused of this murder and stuff, and so there were events happening that were not mentioned until way later in the series, and then backtracking when did those actually occur in relation to the other entries was actually really complicated, because the references were like, well, he was here for 2 months, and then 2 weeks later so and so heard from him, and so we had to like just piece together how much time had elapsed to figure out where those entries actually belonged. So it was like an extra little mystery plot on top of the mystery plot of trying to sort out what was Spock doing in the background while the Discovery was doing other things. So.
While the Discovery was finding lost Earth colonies and things like that.
Yeah.
Similar to that, one of the challenges I ran into, first of all, it was an interesting exercise in like the history of television, right? Because the original series and Next Gen and DS9, like those episodes were written, like that television in that era was written very differently compared to how it's written now, by and large.
Yeah.
To where you got 45, 46-minute episode, it's very except for the 2-parters, it's very much canned. It's like boom, one and done, one and done, one and done. Most of them are very episodic, right? So it was comparatively easier to condense those down to 40, 45 words in my experience than it was like Discovery and Lower Decks and stuff, because there's so much going on because they're more serialized, right? And it was really
somehow managed
challenging.
to cram more into Lower Decks than should actually physically be possible.
Like in a 24-minute episode, they're cramming in A plots, B plots, C plots, and subplots that sprinkle throughout the season, right? So it was really challenging for me to like watch an episode and like, okay, what do I focus on? And like, here's this really important thing that is happening to Commander Arium, but that's not really relevant to the rest of the season. So do I keep it in there because it's important in that episode, or do I just let it go? So it was tricky to figure out what's the most important through line for the season. And then if something important happened in like an episode 12, do I seed something back earlier, or do I just let it go and just let the audience, go check it out on their own and discover all the extra stuff that didn't get included in the book? So I think that was probably the biggest challenge, was to see the difference between legacy Trek and new Trek, and how different they're presented to the audience now.
I can see that.
I know early on, one of the things that we actually thought of was like what to tackle in those entries, in those 40-word entries, and it came down to what was central to the plot of that episode, because there's all this extraneous stuff that is not saying it's not necessary, it's necessary, but a lot of the times it's necessary like for character or B plot, like Jim is saying. But what we had to focus on for our entries primarily, not all the time, but primarily was just what is pivotal for the episode. And then I found myself breaking that a little when it came, probably like you, Kelly. I found myself breaking that when it came down to like seasons 5, 6, and 7 of DS9, because everything was like pivotal.
Everything was connected.
Everything was connected, and you had it was like nuts. So then you start doing like 2 and 3 entries per episode, So it started to get crazy.
Yeah, one of the things that I was impressed by, and I guess this is still maybe being worked out a little bit, but the fact that, they very sort of roughly sketched out, here's how many pages we think, Voyager content's going to take, and here's how many pages we think we need for this century or whatever. And like it has mostly worked out, like it we made it work, and I think that's very impressive given something
That is very impressive,
it was
because
very accurate. Yeah, I was impressed.
I was excited with the lost years too. That more happens in the lost years than you think happen if you listen to where people are talking about. I was thinking about a Voyager episode, if you remember, references Tuvok working on the Excelsior, the USS Excelsior, and that was cool to be able to go back and put an entry in 2293 of him being there, post Praxis incident. And of course, I'll let people do the math themselves, because even though it was a running gag on Voyager the whole time, if you know this, you actually know how old Tuvok is. Remember, the crew was always trying to figure out. At doing this, I was like, I remember I ran upstairs to my wife. I was like, "Oh my God, I know how old Tuvok is." And that was a big deal. There you go. Yeah, look at you, spoiler.
See, that's the kind of thing that sticks in my mind.
That's cool. I'm glad you did
it's
that.
like when I was when I first started working on the game line, Sam Webb asked me, what do you bring, and what are your strengths and liabilities? Well, I've got a fairly comprehensive, but not encyclopedic knowledge of the lore, and that was up through Enterprise and the movies, because Discovery hadn't. I don't think Discovery had even been announced yet. And I've got a fairly good eye for detail. And she asked, well, what's the, what are your weaknesses? I've got a fairly comprehensive, though not encyclopedic, knowledge of the lore up through Enterprise, and I'm got kind of an attention for detail.
Good answer.
It's a double-edged sword.
I gotta remember that. That's good.
You've made good use of it.
For sure.
There have been times it's come back and bit me in the butt, but
yeah, it's been fun to work on game stuff.
Because you're representative of a large fan base out there, that we all had this nervousness, like, man, we're going to be doing panels or podcasts, and we know people are going to be calling us out on this stuff. So that gives us, at least me, I'll speak for myself, a higher level of anxiety. Like, I have to live with this for the next 10, 20, 30 years.
You are never going to be able to let this go. I mean, this is going to be with you, and that's a big deal. I mean, I am so happy and enthused for you guys. I can't tell you how cool I think this is. But it's one of those things that's going to stick with you, because that book is going to be around for a while. I mean, it's stuck with the Akutas for 30 years.
That's crazy. I was at a convention, I guess last year, and a fan came up to me and said, I bought your book talking about the autobiography of Benjamin Sisko. I bought your book to find the errors in canon. That's how they started the conversation with me. And they were like, I didn't find any, so that's pretty good.
That's a nice way. That's a nice way to start.
And I was like, so that's
Yeah.
what we have to. That's the bar that we have. It's a
Oh,
bar because they.
Well, it's yeah. Go ahead.
Sorry, go ahead, Kelly.
No, I was just gonna note that like all of the work that we did had to be run through Paramount with their approval. So thankfully, like we had somebody sort of double checking and we did a ton of work, as Jim said, to cross reference between all of us and the sources, and then the editors helped us, and then Paramount on top of that. So inevitably with a project this big, there's going to be errors and there's going to be inconsistencies and things, but I think it's we did our due diligence. So
Absolutely.
That's all you can. That's all you can ask any researchers. You do due diligence because we're human. We're gonna mess up. Derek, there was one thing I did want to ask you since we did manage to get Starfleet Academy into this book and relating to the autobiography. What did you think of that episode?
Oh, what did I think? I thought it was great. I thought it was great. I never expected it, and to have that kind of callback. Me speaking as a fan, it was beautiful. It was wonderful. And I think that's what Star Trek does at its best, is when it remembers where it came from, and gives homage to other characters and other and certain themes. And I think that it's been a long time since DS9 has gotten it now has a resurgence, but I think to see like a resurgence and a love for Deep Space Nine out of that Starfleet Academy episode, I think is really great. I know like people started emailing me, fans started emailing me and asking like where they could pick up like signed copies of the autobiography after that episode, because they didn't really know a lot about Deep Space Nine, and they were like new fans to Academy. And so about 15 copies I wound up sending out to people around the country.
That's cool. And I have to say too, Derek,
awesome
question. I'm going to interview mode now to Derek on that, because after watching that episode, how did you feel that it wasn't, even the episode did not conflict with your book? In fact, it complemented it. I think about the museum scene in the gallery, and that read like how you wrote the book in New Orleans. So I mean, how did you feel just with that fact?
Well, Michael, thankful and lucky, because it's not anything I did, right? It's the writers, and I think what the writers of Trek do really wonderfully, and I think in this book that we've all done, what we'll see is that the writers of Trek, they really know how to hand off canon to the next generation, pardon the pun, without stepping too much on it. And I try to pay attention to that when writing the autobiography, so I didn't step on things too much and just stayed in a certain lane, and that saved me. Because I think if I'd done some crazy stuff, then it would have contradicted what they did, but it didn't, thankfully. So.
Yeah. And then my ADHD took hold. Hold on just a second. While I tried to reconnect, because that was a sidetrack. It was something that I really wanted to ask your opinion on, because I mean, I'm an old TOS guy, and I appreciated what they did on DS9, but it was not really my favorite. My favorite of the series. For a long time, my favorite was Enterprise, and that got me some dirty looks until fairly recently, when people started realizing, hey, this is actually good.
It does seem to take Trek fans like a decade or two to like appreciate a show.
And I believe For All Mankind, For All Mankind is going to bolster Enterprise watching. I keep telling people Enterprise is the sequel to For All Mankind.
That's a good point.
Nice.
I like it. But I remember watching that episode on Academy and just marveling at what they pulled off. I mean, you could tell that they really, really revered that show.
Yeah.
Jim,
I was, go ahead, Kelly.
I was just gonna ask a extension question because Jim covered Starfleet Academy like as it was airing, so I was just curious if he had any
It's a good
thoughts
question.
on what that experience was like of like cataloging active Trek, as it's coming out.
It was, well, so I mean, working through the book, right? We weren't sure exactly when our deadline was, right? So we weren't sure 100% if we were even going to be able to fit Starfleet Academy in until well into the development. I guess it was like October, November. Once we heard when the air date was, it's like, oh, okay, great, we might be able to fit it in. And then it was like, well, wait a minute, are we going to get like advanced look at the scripts or something? Just to start getting ahead of it. And then they sent us the first group of screeners, which was like episodes 1 through 4 or 5 or something.
1 through 5.
Like, at least we got a head start on that. But it was really cool, just because I've never done this before, to watch the screener like 3 weeks before the episode came out. And so just quietly listening, quietly watching social media as people were thinking about it, talking about it. And then the episode came out, and then they were reacting to it, and I was like, oh wow, that's really interesting. But when I watched the screener for that Cisco episode, I was like, oh my god, I don't know what the fans are going to think about this, right? They're going to go crazy. But it was a really good challenge to work on Starfleet Academy as it was coming out, because I had done the 3 Discovery seasons 3, 4, and 5 early in the whole process, and I wasn't sure how much Starfleet Academy would impact Discovery, right? Especially in the first episode, because there's so much backstory that they
so
plugged into the first episode. So like once I saw that episode, I was like, oh shoot. So we emailed the editors and we were like, we're gonna have to completely rework season 3 because there's so many additional entries we're gonna have to add to that spread and really just move things around. And that was a little bit of an exercise. But fortunately, the writers of Starfleet Academy hewed pretty close to Discovery and didn't really negatively impact anything. They just added more, right? There was more stuff happening in those periods of time, pre-burn and post-burn. But I think for me, the most exciting part was having seen the screeners and then watching social media react to it. And going back to something I think Derek, I think you said it's going to be 10 years before people really appreciate how good Starfleet Academy was. I think once it comes out on physical media and more people can see it who don't have access to Paramount Plus, they're going to be hopefully pleasantly surprised, because I don't think a lot of the negative fans gave it a chance. And you have to think that since it was only on Paramount Plus for the most part, there's a small percentage of the fandom that actually got to see it. And I think once you get it out into the general Star Trek, public meta, whatever, I think you're going to see a lot more people enjoy Starfleet Academy, which of course is too little, too late.
Yeah,
right.
Yeah,
We're not even sure we'll get to see season 2, but hopefully we do, because I thought Starfleet Academy was really, really good, and they did so much in that show to pay homage to the entire franchise.
Yeah,
and there's so much heart.
And grew a response, and I'm going to get a little romantic. Even what Discovery and Starfleet Academy does, it tells us the end of some very significant stories, and we saw that because in some of our feature spreads, we have to track either people or cultures through that time, or ships even. And to me, it's like, wow, both of those shows give us closure. Just something, of course, that everyone would expect in the book is, did Spock's efforts to reunite the Romulans and Vulcans ever pay off? And really, the only thing that gives us that closure is Discovery. So when you track through the book just Spock's efforts through all those years, there's a reward that if you only liked one show, you're never going to get. You got to see the whole epicness of Spock is carried all the way through almost every single one of these shows. So that was nice to, from a romantic point of view, it's like, oh, these are epic stories to be told.
I loved in that particular Discovery episode how they used some of the stock footage of Leonard Nimoy as they were approaching Navarre and what they were doing there. So let's Unless somebody's got something else to add to that, I was gonna.
I just wanted to add, like, we get to find out the outcome of a lot of these cultural struggles, as Michael said, and I appreciate that, 32nd Century Discovery and Starfleet Academy take an optimistic view of that. Like, that's what I would expect from Star Trek, but I was doing the feature spread on the Bajorans and Cardassians, so they're on the same spread together. And
Yeah.
there's all of these entries about this deep conflict and a lot of strife and harm. And then they're both part of the Federation in the future. Like, that's, I don't know. It's
President
just
Rillick.
yeah.
She's
So it's
Bajoran. She's Kardashian. She's got at least one other in there that I haven't been able to.
human. Yeah, she's
I-
human.
she-
Yeah, it's.
No, I'm sorry. Go ahead, Kelly. I'm sorry. I'll be quiet.
Oh, you're good.
I was just gonna say, I was doing a spread on the Dominion, and we get to see that there's well, I can't say a fully female Jem'Hadar, but it's a hybrid Jem'Hadar. So that tells us that, just in knowing that tells us that a lot happened for the Jem'Hadar, and that they aren't in slavery that they were in, so many things.
Their code has been modified where they can reproduce.
There's a lot of stories
Yeah.
to be told. When you see the timeline out there, you're like, oh my goodness, there's so many more stories to be told.
Mhm.
Yeah, I think just tying into what everybody was saying, I think Starfleet Academy, actually the last 3 seasons of Discovery and then Starfleet Academy really set up the 32nd century to be a launching point for a whole new generation of stories, because you got the burn, you got the whole big, galactic wide incident that happened that impacted everybody to some degree or another. You kind of shake up the status quo, right? So everything is familiar, but it's still different, right? You still got Cardassians and Klingons and Romulans and all that stuff, but it's different. There's a new spin on it. So what I think Starfleet Academy did really, really well is not only pay homage to all the other series, but it also shows you new stuff, right? And what I thought was really amazing about it is some of the really, really hard human conversations that those characters were having with each other, really dealing with hard, heavy stuff, right? And really serious, Tarima,
the kids were having with each other.
Went through so much stuff, right? And I think in this day and age, a lot of people are uncomfortable about having those hard conversations, and to be able to show those characters having those conversations and growing through them, I thought, man, that's just great storytelling on top of everything else that they were doing with those 10 episodes. So I think, from an RPG perspective, the 32nd century is like ripe for storytelling. You take the end of season 1 of Starfleet Academy, there's your launching point to no shortage of stories from that point on. If the Paramount powers that be don't do anything with it, we know the RPGers can do stuff with it for the next 30, 40, 50 years.
Absolutely. And that brings me to, probably what's going to wind up, closing us out, because all 5 of us have big opinions on the game. So I'm just going to go to each of you in turn and using timelines in conjunction with your role-playing table. And let's just start with Derek. I'm gonna put you on the spot because your name comes first alphabetically. I'm sorry.
Right. My whole life. I think this book is perfect for a perfect marriage of the Timelines book with Star Trek Adventures. You could literally, as a gamer, sit there with the Timeline book and then any of the Star Trek Adventures books, and say, all right, I want to do this. I want to do this. What happened in this era or in this year? And there's a plethora of fertile soil, as we're talking about, fertile soil in the 32nd century. But in those years, those lean years that we don't know a lot about, that is chronicled in the Timeline book. There's just so much room there to play in, and I think that's one of the best things that fans will just dig in, get the book, dig in, and just imagine what they feel the 23rd, 24th, 32nd centuries will be within the Star Trek universe. I think it's going to be the best thing.
Yeah, and I could focus on a lot to not repeat myself. I think I would probably go through and look for all these one-time technologies that were spread out. Like, whatever happened to that piece of technology, or what happened to that ship? Like, you could, because we did make an effort to choose the pictures. It was hard to trim down, like, what pictures do we want to go with the entries
Oh,
on
good
what
Lord, I can only
pages.
imagine.
And I tried to focus on the most obscure and weird stuff that would make people be like, what the heck is that? So I might go through and just flip through the pages and say, what happened to that technology, or Guardian of Forever, or the Omega molecule? You know, some of these obscure things. We cover a lot in Star Trek Adventures. I think we capture a lot of it. The writers do a really good job of saying, hey, I'm going to talk about this obscure thing. But I like it when I'm able to show a picture from canon to my players to kind of enrich in the story. And then I really like it when, after we do that, they go back and watch maybe the episode for the first time and they start talking like, oh, if we would have known that. So I think just the visuals alone might be a place I would start.
Yeah, I'm gonna follow suit from Michael and give an answer that I don't think I've given yet in any interview, and that is that for someone who maybe has a cursory knowledge of Star Trek, or maybe they've seen a few episodes or excited to try the game, you can skim this timeline and get a sense for the kind of stories and the shapes of stories, like what makes a good Star Trek plot by the types of events that the crews are frequently sort of engaging in. So if you only have knowledge of like one series or one area, this gives you the 40,000 foot view that you can easily flip and just kind of absorb a lot of it, a lot of the plot lines and the sorts of things that tend to go wrong. And then you can either utilize those sorts of things or like spin off from them and make them your own in a game setting. So it's kind of a genre sampler in that kind of sense.
Nothing wrong with that. Nothing wrong with that. How about you, Jim?
Well, I'm trying to think of an answer that I haven't given before. Back in the day, I've been playing Star Trek RPGs in one form or another for mumble years, and every single
mumbling
one
right along with you.
Yeah, every single one of them, my group, everybody in the group always did an exercise where we would take the Okuda chronology, right, and once we figured out when we were going to set our game, whatever time frame it was. Of course, 20 odd years ago, we only had the Legacy series to work with, right? But every one of us, we would sit down together, and we had the Okuda book in that chronology, and we say, okay, here's the year we're starting, 2345 or whatever it was. Here's everything that happened before then. Here's everything that happened after then within 10, 15 years. And then we were able to each individually create our own timelines. Okay, we're in the academy, so we were probably 18 to 20. We did 4 years in the academy. Everything 18 years prior to that, here's all the things that happened. It's like, okay, where can my character, where can those events, where can those events impact my character? Did they impact my character? And then looking ahead a little bit, okay, 10 years after this, because if you're using the old FASTA life path or you're using any other life path, you're like, okay, career events, skills, focuses, values. What am I tying into? 10 years after our starting point, something happens, whatever. And so I've got a long experience building timelines for my characters, right? And so having this book is going to be amazing. So at session 0, you can plot that down and say, okay, gang, what year do we want to start in, right? And then you've got the entire chronology of the franchise mapped out. And then your group can decide, okay, how closely do we want to hew to this? Or do we say, okay, up to this point, everything's canon. And then after this point, throw the book away. We're going to make up our own stuff, and go from there. So I think as a creative aid, it's going to be amazing. And then for game masters, I think it's going to be great to just pick and choose and say, oh, that sounds cool, and that sounds cool, and this event over here sounds cool. I'm going to combine those together and make a whole new mission for my group, and take a little of this and take a little of that, and just play with it, because there's just so much story in Star Trek, right? Over 60 years, and
you just sparked one more idea too, Jim.
Yeah.
You know how you have those electronic dice rollers and you can select how many sided dice it is. So this is, I think, like a 388 page book. So I might do a time travel adventure where, oops, you got into a time anomaly, and I would just roll a 388 side dice, and wherever they land, that's the page and the timeline they end up on. And it's like, you're in this episode now, figure it out. Like, that would be a fun way
That's
There you go.
Yeah,
awesome.
or you could have 2 random rollers, right? Roll randomly for the page, and then roll randomly for which entry on the spread.
A
Right? So,
24-sided dice or something. Yeah.
Page 271, entry 17. All right, well, it's 271, entry 17. Boom, there it is. And then rip off of that.
And no matter where you land, your job is not to break the temporal prime directive. You have to stay in
Oh,
your
yeah.
cover. You have to get out of the situation. Yeah, that'd be fun.
We're gonna have to do some
Excellent.
ripping episodes on that one, Michael.
Oh, let's do it.
Once we have the
Oh
book
my
in
goodness.
hand, once we have the book in hand, we'll have to play around with that a little bit.
For sure.
I love
Oh,
it.
I'm looking forward to that episode in y'all's show when we get there.
Although
Well,
I think I'll add too, only because I'm the project manager for Star Trek Adventures. I'm dreading this book coming out a little bit because I can easily envision everybody who's into the game and who wants to write for the game is going to read this book and get all these ideas for adventures and missions and interstitial moments that something cool happened between this episode and this episode, but it's never been touched by canon. Let me tell that story. Or this little section of the Lost Era, one of the Lost Eras. Let's explore that a little bit. And I'm going to be inundated with pitch ideas and suggestions.
But for people who hear that, there's one thing Jim demands now is era agnostic. So whatever you write has to be able to fall into any era so that people get to choose. So don't try to pin down a year when you're writing a game module.
Yeah. There you go.
All right. Well, folks, it has been an enormous amount of fun. I'm so glad we were able to work this out. There's a considerable amount of cat herding involved in getting this all together. Not as bad as a couple of other episodes that I've done with fewer people, amazingly enough. But that's a story for another time. But I want to thank you for coming out. The book is coming out November the 3rd.
Yep.
It's on pre-order now. I will have links to all that and to all y'all's websites and all the fun stuff that you do down in the description. But thank you so much for coming on and talking about this. I am so looking forward to it. It is
it's always fun talking.
It's going to be a lot of
Thank you.
Thanks for having us, Patrick.
Yeah.
Oh,
This
you're
was
very
fun.
welcome.
It's fun.
Very welcome. We'll have to do this again sometime. Maybe when
Maybe
when it comes out, we'll herd cats again and see what we can do with it.
We'll do Michael and Jim's dice roll.
That will be fun.
Right, do it on air. Do their dice.
Oh, absolutely.
That would be fun.
All right.
When we all have a copy in our hands, right? I don't know if this is going to be available on PDF or not, or in a digital format or not. But once we all have the physical thing in our hands, we can start playing with the dice rolling.
I
flipping pages.
it's already on my Christmas list.
Nice.
Already there. But thank you so much for coming on tonight. I know it's getting late for a couple of y'all, although some of you keep more UK time than others. But thanks again for coming on, and we'll have to do this again sometime. Good night, guys.
Good night.
All right. Good night. Be well.
Take care.
Cheers, everybody.
Take care.
Take care. Bye-bye.
Well, there you have it. I would love to thank once again my guest for coming on tonight. I hope you folks watching this enjoy that as much as I did. I am really looking forward to this book, and I am looking forward to see what I can do with said book in this game that this game that we love. So closing out, as usual, I'm gonna hype my my tip jars, my affiliate link at DriveThruRPG, and my Patreon. I want to thank my current patrons, Robert Loper and Lars DeSenza. Don't know what I'd do without them, except have less caffeine. Don't forget to come over to my Discord channel where we will be talking about this if anybody shows some interest. All the links for this will be down below. The link to pre-order Star Trek Timelines will be down in the description. The individual websites of all the guests that I just had on will be, you guessed it, in the description. But with that being said, it's late here in Texas. I'm going to bed. I will see you all in the next one. Live long and prosper. Good night.